The oak-paneled courtroom smelled of old wood, cold metal, and tension. You could feel it in the air, the weight of a room that had seen justice, injustice, and everything in between. But today felt different. At table 3, dressed in a simple gray blazer and black slacks, sat a woman so still, so composed, it was almost eerie. Tanya Rollins. Late 40s. Black. Clean cut. Broad-shouldered. Her posture was perfect, not military perfect. SEAL perfect. But no one seemed to notice that. To the court officers watching from across the room, she was just another defendant, another body in a long chain of trials that blurred together. No one looked twice. Not at first. Docket 245, Tanya M. Rollins. Disorderly conduct. Assault on a government official. The judge's voice echoed as Tanya slowly stood. There was no outrage in her face. No emotion at all. She simply breathed in, and faced the bench. A young, overconfident prosecutor stood with too much swagger for someone who hadn't yet earned a single conviction. He barely looked at her. "Your Honor, we're asking for remand." The defendant displayed violent behavior in a federal building. Pushed a court officer and resisted commands. He flipped a page as if that would impress the judge. She refused to show identification and wouldn't state her purpose in the restricted corridor. Security had to physically restrain her. She was combative. That word, combative, hit her ears like shrapnel. Tanya didn't flinch. Not even a blink. Her hands remained at her sides. Calm. Controlled. Quiet. The judge looked up over his glasses. "Ma'am, do you have representation today?" Tanya spoke for the first time, her voice low but unwavering. "Yes, Your Honor. I'm representing myself." Murmurs stirred behind her. It wasn't just that she was calm. It was the way she spoke. Each word carried weight. Not arrogance, authority. The judge furrowed his brow. Something didn't add up. But the prosecutor interrupted before anyone could question it. "Your Honor, she's already proven herself a threat. We request immediate remand to county custody." The bailiff shifted uncomfortably. Tanya remained still. "I have identification," she said. "They never asked." The courtroom paused. For a second, no one moved. Then the prosecutor chuckled under his breath and looked at the bailiffs. "Can we take this seriously, please?" he said, waving a hand. That was the moment the temperature in the room dropped. Tanya's gaze didn't shift. She looked directly at the judge. Permission to speak freely. The judge nodded slowly, sensing something deeper. Granted. She turned, facing the room. Not out of defiance, but out of duty. Her voice carried now, not loud, but full. "I entered that corridor because I was instructed to appear in Judge Harper's chambers regarding a sealed Veterans Affairs appeal. I was stopped, questioned, and shoved against a wall. When I attempted to show my ID, it was knocked from my hand. I did not assault anyone. I defended myself from being slammed face first into concrete." Silence. You could hear someone swallow 3 rows back. The prosecutor opened his mouth, then closed it again. "You have your ID now?" the judge asked. Tanya reached slowly into her inner blazer pocket. What she pulled out wasn't a plastic card. It was a black leather military wallet. Gold trim. Emblem burned into the leather, eagle, trident, anchor. When she opened it, she flipped not 1, but 4 military credentials, 2 of them red-banded and classified. And then, her DD 214. Signed. Verified. Honorable discharge. Chief Petty Officer. U.S. Navy SEAL. Combat Sniper. 23 years of service. Special Operations. Clearance, TS/SCI. Someone in the gallery gasped. The judge leaned forward. But before he could speak. Hands behind your back. The bailiff nearest her shouted, reaching for his cuffs. She's pulling something out. Another court officer lunged. Face down, now. Wait, no, the judge barked, but it was too late. Tanya was on the ground. Face first. Knees in her back. Arms wrenched. The courtroom exploded into chaos. Get off her. She's not resisting. Do you see what she's holding? But it didn't matter. Because they'd already handcuffed her. The Navy SEAL. The sniper. The veteran with more medals than most people had birthdays. They handcuffed her like a criminal. In the very courtroom she came to serve in silence. And then. The doors opened. No one saw him enter at first. He walked in like gravity followed him. Tall. Stern. Shoulders broad as history. Ribbons lined his chest like a symphony of sacrifice. Silver stars. Purple hearts. Bronze stars. Service medals. 4-star Admiral James Foster. U.S. Navy. Retired. The entire room fell silent. He walked to the center of the courtroom. Paused. Then said just one line. Get your damn hands off my sniper. Silence held like a tension wire about to snap. The two court officers looked up from Tanya, now handcuffed on the floor, stunned into stillness by the voice that had just cut through the air like a blade. Get your damn hands off my sniper, the Admiral repeated, slower this time, but heavier. A warning cloaked in composure. They moved. Fast. The court officers released Tanya like they'd just realized they were touching a live wire. One of them stumbled backward. Another looked like he wanted to disappear. Tanya slowly pushed herself up to her knees, then to her feet, refusing help. Her blazer was wrinkled, and her wrist bore red marks from the cuffs. But her dignity? Untouched. The Admiral approached her, not with pity, with respect. That old kind, forged in fire, built on battles and sacrifice. Chief. Admiral. No salute. Not here. But it was understood. The judge stood now. This proceeding is paused. Officer Rollins, are you injured? Tanya's reply was quick, clipped. I'm fine. The judge looked to the Admiral. And you are? The man didn't blink. James Foster. Retired Admiral, U.S. Navy. Tanya Rollins served under my command in 2 joint task force operations across 4 continents. Her record isn't just exemplary. It's historic. The room felt too small for the truth that was unfolding. The young prosecutor looked like he might pass out. And then, slowly, almost cinematically, the screen of the courtroom's projector turned blue. The Admiral turned to the bailiff. Play the drive. He handed him a USB. What came next wasn't part of any court record. The image showed a narrow Afghan valley. Night vision green. Wind whipping through mountains. Then, a figure in a prone position on a ridge, nearly invisible to the untrained eye. The wind shifts. The shot is taken. Target neutralized. 980 meters. Wind speed 11 knots. 1 shot. 1 save. Sniper confirmed, Chief Rollins. The video transitioned. Now a hospital in Ramadi, Iraq. Smoke. Blood. Chaos. Rollins is dragging a wounded Marine under fire, backwards, while firing a sidearm, then shielding him with her body as rounds pepper the walls. She takes a hit to the vest. Doesn't flinch. Keeps moving. Confirmed save, PFC Benjamin McAllister. Survivor of the 2009 Ramadi raid. The Admiral spoke as the footage played. She didn't ask for medals. Didn't give interviews. She was the quiet one. The one who volunteered for missions others said were suicide. In Mogadishu, she pulled a downed pilot out of a burning chopper under RPG fire. In Fallujah, she neutralized a sniper nest single-handedly. And in a village outside Kandahar. He paused. She took out a child soldier with a live grenade before he could reach a school of 200. The courtroom sat in stunned silence. Even the judge was motionless. Int. Courtroom, real time. The video stopped. A still image of Tanya stood frozen on the screen. Black uniform. Face painted in camo. Eyes calm. And then, a scroll of medals. Navy Cross. Silver Star, 2x. Bronze Star with Valor, 3x. Purple Heart. Presidential Unit Citation. Joint Meritorious Commendation. Seal Trident, Gold. The silence cracked with the softest sound. Someone sniffled. Then another. The young public defender, who had sat beside Tanya but said nothing, her hands were now shaking. She leaned forward, whispering. I didn't know. Tanya looked at her. They never do. 10-year-old Tanya crouched beside her baby brother, shielding him as glass shattered from their apartment window. Gunfire in the distance. Sirens. A night like too many others. Her mother yelled from the other room, clutching a landline, voice cracking. Just hold him. Don't move. Tanya didn't cry. She wrapped her arms tighter around her brother and whispered. I got you. I got you. Int. Recruiting office, years later. 18. Standing straight. Eyes forward. I want to serve. The recruiter laughed. SEALs. Sweetheart, they don't even have women in that pipeline yet. She didn't flinch. Just said. Then I'll be the first. Int. Bud/S, Hell Week. The Pacific Ocean was brutal. Cold like knives. Men dropped like flies. Tanya didn't. Couldn't. Wouldn't. One by one, instructors circled her. You don't belong here. She stared straight ahead. You're not strong enough. She closed her eyes, saw her brother's face. Ring that bell. But her lips just whispered. I got you. She passed. She didn't just pass. She destroyed records. Int. Combat footage, Iraq/Somalia/Philippines. Tanya was the ghost. The shadow. The unseen protector. She wasn't flashy. She wasn't loud. She was precise. And for 2 decades, she lived in the margins, always proving, always earning. In silence. But the weight of silence isn't light. Tanya had come that day not as a defendant, but as a volunteer. She had been working with Operation Clear Path, a veterans' justice initiative that provided advocacy for former service members facing legal trouble. That day, one of her mens, a young black Marine, had been accused of theft. PTSD, poor legal counsel, no family. Tanya stepped in to speak for him, to offer character testimony. But security never let her reach the chambers. They saw a black woman in plain clothes walking in a restricted corridor and decided that was enough. And just like that, her silence became her sentence. The Admiral stood, fists clenched. You're telling me this woman, after serving this nation for over 2 decades, after being decorated at the highest levels of valor, walked into this courthouse to help someone else, and you put her in cuffs? No one answered. Because there was no answer that would suffice. The prosecutor swallowed hard, his voice small now. We didn't know. Tanya stood now, taller than ever. You didn't ask. The walls of the courtroom seemed to pulse with silence. That kind of silence that comes not from peace, but from shame. No one made eye contact with Tanya Rollins now, not the court officers who cuffed her, not the young prosecutor who pushed for remand, not even the judge who was struggling to process how this had unfolded under his own gavel. But Tanya wasn't bitter. She wasn't angry. She was focused. And tired. But that silent, powerful kind of tired, the kind that only comes from holding back too much for too long. The judge cleared his throat. "We will reconvene. But first, I'd like to correct the record, publicly." He turned toward the gallery. "Chief Petty Officer Tanya M. Rollins. Your service is not only acknowledged, it is now part of the official court record. This court owes you a public apology." He looked at the bailiffs. "And that apology begins with releasing her. Fully." The court officers removed the cuffs. Tanya flexed her wrists slightly, more out of instinct than pain. She didn't smile. She nodded. "Permission to speak, Your Honor." "Granted." Tanya stepped forward. Slowly. With purpose. And then she did something no one expected. She turned around, not toward the judge, but toward the room. Toward the people. The gallery. The system. "You see this uniform?" she asked, holding up her folded military credentials. "You respect it. But you didn't see me." The words landed like a gavel of their own. "I've spent 23 years of my life serving this country. I've walked into enemy territory with nothing but a rifle, a radio, and the weight of 1,000 lives on my shoulders. I've pulled bleeding men from rubble, I've taken out threats before they could reach your children, and I've buried more friends than I care to count." Her voice didn't rise. It didn't need to. But none of that mattered the second I walked into this building as a black woman out of uniform. You could hear a pin drop. You didn't ask who I was. You didn't check your assumptions. You didn't consider that someone who looked like me might have earned their way into this courtroom with valor, not violence. The young prosecutor shifted uncomfortably, eyes low. Tanya looked straight at him. "You didn't know. Because you didn't care to." She stepped back. Then slowly, the Admiral rose. "May I approach the bench, Your Honor?" The judge nodded. Admiral Foster walked like a man used to making waves. He handed over a sealed envelope. "These are classified commendations and citations related to missions Chief Rollins executed under Joint Special Operations Command. I've secured clearance for the court to view them in camera." The judge opened it. Scanned. His eyes widened. "She was responsible for the capture of Khalid al-Nazari?" The prosecutor looked up sharply. "The al-Nazari?" The Admiral nodded. "Yes. But you wouldn't have known. Because people like her. They don't get press conferences. They don't get welcome home parades. They just keep saving lives in silence while folks debate whether they even belong." The judge took a breath, clearly shaken. "Let the record show." His voice cracked, just slightly. "Let the record show that this court recognizes the injustice suffered by Chief Petty Officer Tanya Rollins. That this court acknowledges its failure to ensure equal dignity and treatment, and that such failure is inexcusable." Tanya didn't react. She simply stood straighter. The prosecutor tried to recover. "Your Honor, given these revelations, the state would like to move for immediate dismissal of all charges." The judge raised an eyebrow. "Revelations? Counselor, what you call revelations, I call a failure to ask a single damn question." Motion granted. Case dismissed. A beat passed. Then applause. It started small. A single clap. Then two. Then the entire gallery rose to their feet. Veterans. Spectators. Reporters. Even the public defender beside her had tears running silently down her face. TV anchor. A decorated Navy SEAL sniper, wrongly handcuffed in a DC courtroom. sparked national outcry this week after it was revealed she was aiding a fellow veteran, not facing charges herself. Admiral James Foster's emotional testimony drew attention to the ongoing lack of recognition for black female service members. Tanya sits in a circle of folding chairs surrounded by younger vets. One speaks. "Ma'am, what do you do when it doesn't stop?" The assumptions. The way they look at you. Tanya leans forward. Her voice is soft. Worn. True. You remember who you are. Not who they assume you are. That uniform didn't make me. It just gave me a place to prove what was already inside. And when the world forgets your worth. She smiled faintly now. You remind them. Not with rage. With record. With grace. And when necessary. She looked up. With fire. The American flag hung still, not a ripple in sight. The room was ceremonial, grand, but suffocatingly quiet. There were only a few places in Washington where silence meant something, and this was one of them. The Hall of Heroes at the Pentagon didn't hold applause. It held history. Rows of medals lined the glass walls. Faces etched in bronze, names engraved into the marble floor. Most of them didn't look like Tanya. She stood near the back, in a simple black suit, not a single decoration on her chest. Her seal trident was pinned to the inside of her jacket, where it had always stayed. Close. Personal. Silent. A voice echoed from the podium at the front. Ladies and gentlemen, today we gather not to correct a mistake, but to honor a truth that was there all along. We are here for Chief Petty Officer Tanya Rollins. The crowd rose. Uniforms, civilians, journalists. Senators. Young officers. Gold Star families. Admiral Foster stood beside the Secretary of Defense. You may not know her name, the Secretary began. But you've slept safely because of her. You've watched your children walk to school without knowing that across oceans and deserts, she was the one clearing the path. The room watched as Tanya slowly stepped forward. Each step echoed against the polished floor. She didn't look proud. She looked steady. The Admiral removed a small box from the podium. Tanya Rollins has been awarded the Navy Cross with Combat Distinction, a recommendation held in review for 9 years due to mission classification. He opened it. The medal gleamed like a secret finally given light. He reached forward, intending to pin it on her. But Tanya raised a hand. Sir, she said softly, with respect, may I say a few words first? He stepped back. And the room held its breath. Microphone the speech that shook the room. Tanya stepped up to the podium. She looked at the audience, at the cameras. But then she looked just above them, like she was seeing something more. When I put on the uniform, I did it because I believed in something bigger than myself. I believed in service. In duty. In protecting those who couldn't protect themselves. I did not ask for visibility. I did not ask for credit. A pause. But I never expected that silence would be used to erase me. She let that settle. They say heroes don't need recognition. Maybe that's true. But when you only recognize a certain kind of hero, what you're really doing is teaching a country who's worth remembering. Her voice didn't waver. I bled in silence. I grieved in silence. And when I came home, I was judged in silence. I was handcuffed in silence. Not because I was a threat, but because the world still doesn't believe that someone who looks like me could have done what I've done. You're not just honoring me today. You're honoring the sisters who were passed over, the brothers who were discharged for less, the warriors who never made it back because they didn't have someone like Admiral Foster in the room when it mattered. Tanya looked at the medal. Then at the crowd. This is not mine alone. Tanya sat across from a panel of lawmakers. She wasn't wearing a uniform. She wore a plain navy blouse. Her voice was just as calm.